Welcome back to The Explainer. So today, we are diving into something absolutely fascinating, the Red Tail Blueprint. We're looking at a socioeconomic strategy that takes the legendary, literally world-class military discipline of the Tuskegee Airmen and applies it to a highly structured, modern-day movement all about self-reliance. It's a really unique concept, so let's just jump right into how it actually works.
Okay, take a look at the stark contrast here. Over on the left, you've got this 1925 U.S. Army War College study. It completely falsely claimed that black men lacked the courage and intelligence to fly. Basically, it was a systemic barrier built to guarantee failure. But then look at the actual reality on the right. The Tuskegee Airmen didn't just meet the military standard, they totally weaponized it. We're talking about a group filled with actual physics and engineering majors, easily the most academically overqualified fighter group out there. By executing their own flawless parallel tactics, these guys saved 480 American lives. They completely shattered those systemic lies.
And that brings us to their specific strategy, which is captured perfectly in this quote. Stick with the bombers. Mission over kills. This was the core of the Red Tail parallel fighting doctrine. Now, mainstream American military strategy back then, it was all about chasing individual kills, right? Getting that personal glory. But the Red Tails explicitly rejected that. Under Colonel Benjamin O. Davis Jr., they built this parallel system of just absolute group discipline. They flat out refused to break formation. By putting the collective mission above individual accolades, they achieved a level of success that was honestly unprecedented. Which brings us to Section 1, Action over Optics. So how exactly does this historical military discipline translate into a modern framework? Well, the sources point us straight to B.A.P.S, that stands for Black American Parallel Systems. Basically, this is a blueprint for the conscious public building of independent infrastructure. The stated goal here is to protect, sustain, and prosper foundational Black Americans, but entirely outside of mainstream societal structures. It's a philosophy that's totally rooted in absolute self-reliance, rather than, petitioning existing systems for inclusion. According to the B.A.P.S. editorial board documents, history is already full of talkers and protesters. This movement, on the other hand, strictly defines itself as a movement of builders. So instead of protesting a system that they view as extractive, the whole strategy is to just bypass the matrix entirely. And how do you do that? By building tangible physical and digital infrastructure. It's all about creating a new reality on the ground, not just focusing on the optics.
Moving on to Section 2. The 4 core pillars. To actually pull off bypassing mainstream dependency, the movement identifies 4 distinct structural pillars. First up, we have economic independence. This involves tapping into independent cryptocurrency networks and setting up really robust barter ecosystems. Second is sustainable living in agriculture. Think off-grid communities and localized food sovereignty. Third, health and wellness, which means creating holistic medical infrastructure, like community-based doula networks. And finally, the 4th pillar is complete self-governance. That just means ensuring any system you need for daily life is maintained and controlled strictly by the community itself. What you're seeing here is the actual documented FBA Parallel Systems Blueprint, straight from our source material. As you can see, it clearly outlines the mission: our infrastructure, our future. This isn't just some theoretical pie-in-the-sky concept. It's a structured, heavily documented guide. They actually use this in their community hubs, like designated Discord channels, to educate people and equip them with the hard, practical skills needed to execute those 4 pillars out in the real world. So what does this execution actually look like day to day? Well, the sources give us some super concrete examples. One of their first real-world initiatives is combining physical commerce with digital infrastructure. They do this through $1 community yard sales that are actually powered by their own cryptocurrency, the FBA coin. The main goal here is to create a living, totally self-contained trade ecosystem. They want capital circulating strictly within the community, completely untouched by mainstream financial institutions.
All right, let's look at Section 3, Architects of Sovereignty. Obviously, building an ecosystem like this from scratch requires a proven model. This table maps those modern pillars directly to their historical master architects. For enterprise and supply chain, they look to Madam C.J. Walker. She built a massive, self-funded manufacturing empire. For financial infrastructure, it's Maggie Lena Walker, the first Black woman to charter a bank in the U.S., literally creating a parallel financial network. For agriculture, you've got Fannie Lou Hamer, who bypassed the whole sharecropping system by launching the 680-acre Freedom Farm Cooperative. And for governance, Nanny Helen Burroughs, who built an uncompromised grassroots-funded educational apparatus. The sources make it very clear. These women are honored not for activism, but because they actually built physical, alternative systems that rendered the mainstream matrix totally irrelevant. Now for our final section, Section 4, the Black Majority State. While building locally is the starting point, the ultimate endgame of this whole system is geographic consolidation. The sources outline a pretty major strategic concept championed by authors like Charles Blow. It's often called the reverse Great Migration. The core thesis here is that the historical Great Migration actually dispersed political power. So the proposed solution? Intentionally relocate and concentrate populations back into targeted southern states. The goal is to create undeniable demographic supermajorities that can secure unquestionable political control. The blueprint actually maps this out in a very precise 4-phase roadmap. Step 1 is economic consolidation, basically pooling resources and monopolizing disposable income through internal rails, like that FBA coin we mentioned. Step 2 is geographic concentration, physically moving populations to those targeted states. Step 3 is the restitutional framework. This views gaining state-level authority as an actual structural form of reparations. And finally, Step 4 is political sovereignty. This means actively taking over state legislatures, governorships, local courts, and policing. It's a literal roadmap taking you from localized parallel systems all the way to full state authority. Now, you might be wondering what happens if this political consolidation faces some serious pushback. Well, the B.A.P.S strategy actually anticipates this. If a demographic shift happens and the dominant society attempts economic sabotage, like, say, corporate divestment or white flight, the idea is that the state wouldn't collapse. And why is that? Because the parallel systems were built first. Think about it. If you already own your agricultural hubs, your financial rails, and your healthcare networks, external divestment literally cannot starve you out. That pre-built infrastructure acts as the ultimate defense mechanism for the Black majority state. Which really leaves us with a profound question to chew on today. As we watch these demographic shifts unfold alongside this highly organized push for uncompromised, independent infrastructure, how will the rise of these parallel systems reshape the entire future of American political and economic geography? Whether we're talking about historical fighter pilots demanding absolute discipline in the skies, or modern movements building blockchain economies and off-grid farms, the strategy of bypassing the system to build your own is a seriously powerful force. It's a lot to think about. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll see you next time.